Promo screen is up.
Let it Drake, let it Drake, let it Drake.
Indeed, I dig it.
You look crazy.
I disagree. I mean, you don't ask my opinion and then tell me I'm wrong.
My daughter did this.
Bella the beast, man. Bella can do all things, man. That son of yours, he come riding past. Said, there go your daddy. He talking about who? I said, fool. You mean me who or your daddy who? Damn it. This iPad is habitually uncharged, and it decreases at a rapid rate, even when it's actually charging. All right, we gotta hop in because you made a great point on Monday about this being virtual. So if you're good, I'm about to bring it all in.
I'm good.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is. I don't see it on my screen though, so it's cool. Is that one charged? Because if it is, I want it over here. And if it ain't, I want it over here. Either way, I need it over here.
Did we talk about
Okay.
propping up Cardi B for the DNC?
No, I don't know about that. We're going live right now. Great afternoon to you wonderful people. Welcome to another edition of I Said What I Said. Today is Wednesday, August what, too? Do you know?
No.
August 19th is today's day. Today is Wednesday, August 19th. This is I Said What I Said. Each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, myself, Herb Howard, and my brilliant co-host, Mr. Tucson, want to get here with you, and we discuss issues that are impacting the black community, how those things are impacting us as individuals, but also how they are impacting us as a collective. And along with your help, we try to talk through some of those things and try and find the best solutions for how we can overcome many of those issues that we are facing as a community. Thank y'all so much for choosing to be a part of the conversation. We truly, truly appreciate it. As always, your input is valued. It is appreciated. So anything that you want to add to the conversation, just leave your comments on the Mace Jackson Facebook page. We'll read through as many of them as possible as we go through. If you'd like to join the conversation via telephone, you can do that as well. 872-259-7474 is the telephone number. 872-259-7474 is the phone number if you would like to join the conversation that way as well. Again, your input is valued and appreciated. All we try to do is try and bring as many like-minded individuals as possible to the conversation. We feel like the more like-minded individuals that we can get in the conversation, the better opportunity that gives us to find the optimum solutions for how we can overcome many of those things. Again, like-minded, not meaning that we're all in agreement. It's not about agreeing. It's about talking through these things, being aware that there are some problems in our community, and being actively engaged in trying to solve them. So if you would be so kind, please take a quick moment to share the conversation, share it on your personal page, but also share it within your personal network. Anybody that you feel will either find value in or add value to this particular conversation, they are more than welcome. We would love to have them be a part of this conversation. Again, this is I Said What I Said. Tucson Warner, Herb Howard here with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the Mace Jackson page. We are live from the What's In It for the Black People Media Studios. Thank y'all so much for choosing to spend your afternoon here with us. It means a great deal. Two, how you feeling, good brother?
What down, family? What's the business?
Ain't nothing to it, man. I'm all good, man. I see you got the braids rocking today, man. I know you've been staying away from the barbershop ever since the onset of this particular pandemic, and you haven't felt comfortable going back to it, so the hair's been growing, and you finally got it braided up. I'm digging it, personally.
Yeah, it was looking crazy. It still look crazy, man. My baby girl just like playing in my hair. You know, she told me she was going to be a beautician one day, so I'm her practice dummy right now.
Hey, the things we do for our children, man. So I personally think that it's a good look on you, brother. So you know.
Yeah, but
keep
as soon as
rocking
COVID is done, it's done.
As soon as COVID is done, you done with it?
Yeah.
You're not gonna let her keep rocking
I
with
can't
it?
make no money with this hairstyle.
I can't make no money with this hairstyle. Either way, man, I think it's a decent look. I've been on my bike lately.
Good job, family.
I want you to know that. I want you to know that because you always on your bike, and I've been rocking on my bike lately. Last night I went for a nice long ride. Where did I go to? I went to Calumet Park over there on 95th.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the way east. So I rode out to Calumet Park, chilled out, watched the waves come crashing in, and I guess I learned something too. A new moon brings like stronger waves.
I don't know what the hell that means.
Yeah, I didn't know either, but I learned last night, right? And so the waves were crashing in pretty hard. I sat out there for a little while, then I rode on back. Did that last night, and then this morning I got up and hopped on my bike and rode again. So man, I've been getting my miles on.
So yesterday, man, I put up like 40 something. I think I put up like 30 to 40 miles yesterday.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what's happening, man, but looks like we're losing our signal a little bit. We're gonna keep it pushing though.
Nah, we losing a little bit, but my screen is frozen. So yours is up. Let me bring yours up because yours is actually working. Mine is a little frozen, but it's all good.
Well, it is what it is, man. I think I put up like 37 miles yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so it was an interesting day though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go. You know, we all talked about my hip and my arthritis and all that, right?
Right.
So I had to go yesterday to get my steroid shot,
Right.
and I didn't have any real context as to what that meant.
Uh-huh.
I just knew that it was supposed to make me feel better.
How else did it make you feel?
So let me just give you the story.
Uh-oh.
There's a story attached to this.
Can
right?
someone say impotent?
Right.
Can you say
my
limp
mind,
noodle?
my logic says, all right, man. So they finna hit me with the steroid. It's supposed to make me feel better. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some exercise. I'm gonna ride my bike to the hospital.
Sure.
Right. So and the hospital is Northwestern. So I jump on the bike, ride from Hart Park to what's that? Chicago Avenue, I guess it is.
Uh-huh.
Ride to Chicago Avenue, and I'm feeling good, man. It's a nice ride. My bike is it seems like it's a brand new bike. It's nice weather. I'm flying.
Right.
Get down there, go into the hospital. First thing the doctor says, this is gonna hurt a lot.
Say
Right?
what?
This is gonna hurt. Right?
Say what?
So I'm like, oh shit. So I'm in there, and now, mind you, this is my growing. I didn't talk to a couple of my partners who had arthritis issues, and they had to get the same shot or whatever, but it wasn't in their growing area.
Right.
So these moms pull out this needle. First they do you like the dentist. They gotta numb you up, so they're hitting you with Novocaine.
Sure.
And then they pull out this needle to pump the Novocaine in your body. And you gotta think, man, this is in order to shot. It's not like a shot when you get like your blood drawn and nothing like that.
Right.
The needle has to be big enough for it to reach the bone. Now, mind you, this is an inch and a half worth of my joint. So yeah, that was a different experience. Yeah, it hurt like hell. You understand me?
Uh-huh.
And I leave up out there, so now I'm in more pain than when I got there. And not only does it hurt like hell, but the steroid don't kick in right away. They say, well, it's going to be like 4 or 5 days before you start feeling this shit.
4 or 5 days.
Yeah, it's going to be 4 or 5 days before you start
But
feeling
why
this
y'all
shit.
ain't call me last week?
So I'm leaving up out of there, and I'm riding the bike back to the crib, and I'm in pain now. Like,
Sure.
this is some bullshit.
Sure.
I get to like Michigan and Randolph, and I got my headphones on, but I'm on the phone. I'm talking to somebody. And you know how it's always a bunch of pigeons on the ground downtown.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bunch of them. It looked like they didn't move, but I'm kind of half paying attention to the street, half paying attention to my phone call. And all of a sudden I hear this loud bang through my headphones, and this like whiff of air hit my leg.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I ran a pigeon over and killed him. You know what I mean? But lo and behold, it was my tire blowing out.
Right.
So now I'm in pain.
Uh-huh.
I got to carry a bike with a blowout,
Uh-huh.
and I'm pissed.
Can I tell you who first told me that?
What's that?
That you blew a tire yesterday?
Your mama?
My mama told me.
I love your mama. Your mama said, "You want me to come get you?" I said, "Boy, I love your
My
mama."
mama told me. I guess she was on Facebook and saw that Tucson was in distress, and so Mama Howard to the rescue. And she told me, she was like, but this how my mama worked, right? my mom will take pieces of information, and no matter if they go together necessarily, she combines it all together, right? Mm-hmm. So she like, I told her I was riding my bike, right? So she like, cause she called me she FaceTimed me while I was riding my bike, and last night, and she's like, okay, she's like, well, be careful, Tucson fell off his bike, he needed a hip replacement, right? So I'm like,
he dead on Michigan Avenue.
I'm like, right. I'm like, time out, okay. Both those things may be true, but they aren't necessarily correlated in that particular way. I said, no, he does need a hip replacement, and maybe he fell off his bike if you know that, but they're not connected in any particular way. She's like, well, I asked him if he wanted me to come pick him up, and because he needed air in his tire or something. Like, Mama, okay.
I'm good money, man, but it's really like a analogy on how I live my life. I fall down, but I ain't gonna never stay down.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It is.
That's deep. Get your ass out of here.
Yeah, I'm deep.
If you're just tuning in, this is I Said What I Said. Herb Howard Tucson Warner here with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. on the Maze Jackson page. We are live from the What's in It for the Black People Media Studios. Thank you so much for choosing to tune in and be a part of this conversation. It means the world to us that you have chosen to spend your afternoon with us. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Anything that you want to add to the conversation, leave your comments on the page. We will get to as many of them as possible. Soon enough, I will bring my picture up and you'll be able to see me. But right now, my camera is frozen, so you can't really see all this wonderful gorgeousness that I have going on a daily basis. But we'll get to it soon as possible. You such a hater, too. You are such a hater. But no, we appreciate it. So if you take a quick moment to share this conversation, we would greatly, greatly appreciate that as well. If you would just take a moment to share the conversation to your personal page or within your personal network as well. Also, please continue to support the show financially. You can do so by clicking on those gold stars. We greatly, greatly appreciate everybody who has been supporting the show so far. It is truly allowing us to continue to enhance the programming that we bring to you. So please continue to do that if you feel so inclined to do so. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Couple things I want to get into today. There is a sister named Erica Lachey, and Erica Lachey, she is a thought leader, right? She's a thought leader, and she's absolutely pro-black, and she once was blessed for black people. Yesterday or the day before, she put out a video on her Instagram page describing the state of black economics, and more importantly, she was trying to give reasoning for why we are there or solutions for how we can rise out of the place that we find ourselves in now. I found it very interesting. There were parts of her commentary that I agree with, and there were parts of her commentary that I didn't so much agree with, or at least pieces that I thought were left out of her commentary. We're going to get into that as well, because she kind of took an approach to it that was just like, get over it.
Pull yourself up from
right?
the bootstrap.
It was a bootstrap approach, right?
Get it together.
And I thought that she was missing some pieces there. Not that she was completely off base, not that I didn't understand where she was coming from, but I thought she was missing some pieces within that. So we're going to delve into that conversation and some other things as well. We're going to juxtapose what she said to a video clip from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that from an interview that he did just about 11 months before he was assassinated, speaking on economics in the black community and relating that to other cultures, because the question was posed to him in a way that says, well, aren't black, like everybody else that comes here figures it out. Everybody else that lands on these shores, they're able to, figure themselves out and sustain themselves economically. What's wrong with black people? Is it just because they're black they can't do that? And per usual, Dr. King had a very poignant response to that. So we're going to play a couple of those clips for you as we go here throughout the afternoon, and we're going to get into a couple of other things too. You ain't been paying attention to the NBA playoffs started last night. That's not your jam right now.
You know I'm a basketball fanatic, man, but I just ain't had time. But I did watch a little bit of Portland beat the hell out of LeBron, and anytime LeBron loses, I champion that. So,
See,
I'm that guy.
What's the LeBron hate about? What do you think is the source of the LeBron?
I don't
hate?
like LeBron.
And I'm not saying that's you.
Let me not say that, right? I do like LeBron. Off the court, I think LeBron's an amazing cat. Right. But I'm a Chicago guy. You know what I mean? And Derrick Rose is the second coming of Chicago basketball. Like, he revitalized Chicago basketball. And in a lot of ways, man, I think when Bron was in Cleveland and D Rose was kind of emerging as the MVP and emerging as a superstar, there was a level of disrespect that Bron showed to that team that kind of irritated the hell out of me. Now, he kind of redeemed himself when he made a call and put D Rose on the Cavaliers when D Rose was going through his troubles. So I do respect that part of it. But I don't know if you remember specifically, there was a moment when Joakim Noah was about to get off the bench and have a fight with Bron one day because Bron, we was in the playoffs, I think it was. Bron was dancing on the free throw line. It was just real disrespectful.
Right.
And Joe was like, man, I'll beat your ass.
Right.
And I just, I'm a Chicago guy. I roll with who I roll with. It is what it is. There's no love there. So, what he does off the court, I salute it. But on the court, man, get your ass out of here.
Listen,
And he's super soft, G. This whole new generation is super, they soft as hell.
Yeah, but you can't lay that at the feet of LeBron. The game has changed, right?
I don't give a shit. He's part of that change. Like, he's soft as shit. Like, the flop has become an actual move in the NBA. That irritates the hell out of me.
How many players would you take over LeBron James?
Today?
In the history of basketball being
In the history of
played?
basketball?
Yeah, since
I
the
would have a
Peach
whole
Basket.
team before I would pick him up.
Since the Peach Basket.
I would have a whole team before I picked him up.
A whole team. You got 12 players that you would take over
way
LeBron
before I
James.
would pick Bron up. Yeah, that doesn't deny his talent.
Right.
I'm not denying his talent.
Right.
But first of all, my humble opinion, right? The 90s era of basketball, late 80s, early 90s era of basketball was the greatest era of basketball.
I agree. Don't dispute that at all.
So you put LeBron's skill set in that era, what kind of player does he become? Now, in this era, it fits. But in that era, who does he become?
A dog.
Psh,
Scotty was soft as shit when he came to the Bulls.
yeah, and he had to grow up.
Yeah, you don't think LeBron would have adapted to the era?
Mentally, LeBron's problem ain't physicality. His problem is mental.
Scotty's wasn't physicality. He was soft.
Scotty was skinny as shit at first.
He was soft though.
Whatever, man. The hell with LeBron.
He was soft
On the
first.
court. Let me clarify that. On the court.
Point is, whatever. I don't want to have that conversation because I'm not really I'm not one of those LeBron loving dudes. I'm not here to say that he's the greatest of all time, or I personally don't think he's better than Kobe. I would put LeBron at third all time. Right? I would take Mike, I'd take Kobe, and then I'd take LeBron. That's just me personally. But that ain't even the conversation I'm trying to have. They started the playoffs last night with the Lakers being the number 1 seed and heavily favored to come out of the West at least face the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals.
And Dame Dollar put him in this place.
And the Portland Trail Blazers, led by Dame Dollar, led by Damian Lillard, I think they were 5 or 6 games out of the last playoff seed about a week or two ago. And people were counting them out, and Dame came out publicly and said, okay, just see. And then they ran off like 7, 8 games in a row, got into the last spot, and then they started the playoffs yesterday, and Dame went Dame on them, right? Mm-hmm. Hitting 40-footers like it was
shout out to
nothing.
my son, man. My son won $150 yesterday because he betted on Portland. I
Yeah.
said, go ahead, boy. You got your daddy jeans and you at the
Dame and Melo went crazy, and they got a 1-0 lead right now. I still don't think they're going to win the series, but they certainly have a chance to. So the NBA playoffs are underway right now down in the bubble in Orlando. It looks a little weird watching the games. I haven't really actually watched one, but the clips I see, it's just weird to see them in it looks like an AAU tournament, right? Just a little court where they just kind of hooping and nobody's really there, and there's not the noise to accompany the game action. A little weird, but shout out to the NBA for finding a way to keep things going, even amid this particular pandemic. I think the NBA playoffs is one of the more entertaining sporting events on the calendar year, me personally.
Yeah, man, but I'm kind of anti-entertainment in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm not. I was kind of with Kyrie and saying, ban that shit all together.
Sure.
I think that's how America works, right? We kind of nullify the issues and put your ass to sleep with tap dance.
Mm-hmm.
And the NBA in this moment is just kind of supporting that idea.
I agree with that.
When you can tune out of what's really happening because you can tune in the sport. And that's just what it is, right? You think about those old Roman movies when they was in the Coliseum and they had lions fighting dudes and all that wild gladiator shit.
Right.
That was structured and designed to keep people's minds off not eating. Legitimately, literally.
Sure.
Come watch this crazy shit so
Sure.
you don't remember you hungry. And it's the same strategies and tactics that's used today. So in regards to the availability and the access of sport, people really sit down on their couch and they forget about their worries of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's just too much stuff going on. And I mean, I'm a fan. Don't get it twisted, but I don't got time in the moment.
So what do you say to an argument that says I can't consume social justice 24/7?
I say you're a child.
Mm.
That's what I say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's time for us to be adults,
Mm-hmm.
right? I get the need and the desire to disconnect. That's human.
Sure.
You understand what I'm saying? But our problem is that we spend 90% of our time disconnected, maybe 95 to 97.
Sure.
And we connect in for the 20 minutes that we go into the voting booth. That's why we get the same results we get all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if you could find balance. I was with a couple of my cousins the other day, and it's a girl, she was with some of her friends. And I did something that wasn't, they don't know me.
Right.
Right? So I did something. They was like, Tucson, what you doing? That ain't, you too woke to be moving like that. You know what I mean? And my response was, I made a joke of it, but I was like, balance, baby, balance. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's real.
Absolutely,
we got to
it
have
is.
a balanced existence.
Sure.
And I think that America sells you on entertainment. Think about it, man. 90% of the foods in the grocery store is foods you really shouldn't be putting in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Like a grocery shopper who really knows, like a health addict, the only places you're supposed to shop in the grocery store are on the outskirts. Everything is in the middle of the grocery store. You shouldn't even buy. It's no balance. And most people don't shop on the outskirts. They're not buying fruit. They're not buying vegetables. They're buying the shit that's in the box. Right? So there's nothing healthy going into the machine. And it's the same thing with media and messaging. There's nothing healthy going into the machine. And then you're confused when you get these unhealthy outcomes.
Shouldn't be no surprise to it.
You're supposed to get unhealthy.
That's what you're putting in.
Right, because you're not doing the work to make a healthy existence.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You cannot get health out of a sick environment.
Food consumption is the same thing as intellectual consumption. Right?
Absolutely. Everything you put in your mind has an effect on your body.
Right.
Everything.
Right.
And I'm not saying I love basketball. Don't get it twisted.
Mm-hmm.
Love basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I love sport.
Mm-hmm.
Period. It is
Mm-hmm.
what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just we're in an interesting moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a moment that we can really, as a society, kind of
leverage it for something else.
leverage it to really create the world that we really want to see. And we just not engaged in that same way. Even in the conversation we about to have about the young sister from Instagram, the video, I said this last week when we was on the air. I said that this generation is going to birth another generation of real change agents. There's a lot of people out here running around talking about they woke, but they really just not even intellectually adept enough to really be woke.
Right.
Right? So you have half the process. You got the gumption of throwing a rock through the window. You got half the process of I read one or two books and I got an idea. Right? But this is an in-depth conversation. And it's a real entangled weave kind of deal.
Sure.
And until you take a deep dive, all that shit you talking is really just surface, right?
You
so everybody, you always hit that backlash. We just gonna march. Marching ain't gonna do shit.
They gonna get it
right. But you can't even fathom the idea beyond marching.
Right.
Because you don't know. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. Because you don't know shit.
Right.
Right. That's because your experience is limited. Your studying is limited. Your ideas are limited, and they're only limited because you allow them to be limited. It's a choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at this day and age, we're living in the information age. Ignorance is absolutely a choice, right? So, and I don't care what it is that you're particularly ignorant about. If it's something that you want to speak on, if it's something that you want to have a passionate opinion about, and you want your voice to be heard on it, but you're ignorant about it, understand that you're making a choice to be ignorant, because you could very well be informed about whatever it is you want to be informed about in this particular day and age. My stance on this in terms of sports and things like this is I just see every time there's a problem, there's an opportunity, right? And I think that in this particular moment, there is a great opportunity for Black America to flex our collective muscle to say enough is enough and not continue to add up different pieces of this and say, well, this killing or that killing or this injustice or that injustice. Fuck it. If George Floyd was supposed to be the last one, then George Floyd was the last one. We don't need to keep adding on top of that, on top of that, on top of that. Say, what about this and what about this one? Nah, we said we was done with y'all shit. We done with your shit. Period. And we have to be able to deliver a sufficient enough consequence. But that takes everybody. So that takes everybody being committed, everybody willing to sacrifice. And I think that one of the great sacrifices and displays of commitment that we could show would be for world-class athletes in the National Basketball Association, in the National Football League, even in Major League Baseball, where it's only probably like 10 of us in there.
It's like 5 black people
right.
in Black Baseball.
But even there, right? I'll say, nah, nothing's happening until we get this shit right. Nothing. Don't nothing move until we get it right.
And this is going to be part of the argument and part of the pushback I have about the video from the girl once we play it, right? How do you fix a situation that you don't understand? You understand what I'm saying? If you go to the doctor and you're looking for some healing, you got to first understand where the pain is coming from. Once you understand where the pain was, once you can identify the pain, you can identify a process in which to heal, right? But until we take that deep dive and invest in what the issue is, then the results are always going to vary.
Right.
And therein lies the problem.
Right.
We don't fully grasp or understand our situation and our position in this country. I say that all the time. Right. So I wrote I guess a synopsis, you could say, of Kamala Harris the other day. And I thought I laid out all the points very concisely. I'm sure I laid out all the points very concisely. And I got something like 200 comments questioning the shit that I had wrote in the original article.
Mhm.
If you want to know how I feel, just reread the goddamn article.
Right.
It says it right there.
Right.
You know what
You
I mean?
don't have to guess.
You don't have to guess about it. But again, it's like we don't cognitively understand. We don't understand comprehension. All of that shit is based on our level of dumbed downness. You know what I mean?
Right.
Listening is a skill that most people don't have. It's almost, and we talk about the Chris Rock joke all the time. It's like when he said, "Fat people don't fail cooking." Right, but in truth though, you know most people it's a joke and everybody would laugh at that and they was like, fat people must know about food.
Right, but all fat people can't cook.
But check this out though, it's even deeper than that. If you fat, you probably know less about food.
Why?
Because
clearly you make it bad.
You understand what I'm saying?
I think.
But it's the analogy he made was he was like taking an African American history course or studies course, and he failed the shit. He was like, I'm black, I'm supposed to know this shit.
Right.
But we don't invest in those ideas, and we don't really know the shit. So we don't know why we're in the conditions that we're in. So you get these half-ass, let me not say that. We get these activists, or we get people who find a platform and they get leveled up, they get pushed up through society, they get pushed up through the ranks.
Sure.
But they really ain't got shit to talk about.
No.
Because they just don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that, it's impossible to live in this day and age and not have an opinion on this thing, one way or the other, right? The issue becomes when you have a certain platform, but you choose not to actually inform yourself on it. Now, if you want to have an opinion based off the snippets that you get here and there, the little bit of knowledge that you may have about whatever this and that may be, that's fine. Nobody's saying you can't have an opinion. You're entitled to it. But when you actually want to make a call to action for the masses, but you haven't yet informed yourself about it, I think that's irresponsible, right? And I think it's potentially dangerous for the people, right? Especially when you have these people who have large platforms based on other things, right? I have a large platform because I'm a rapper. I have a large platform because I'm successful economically speaking. I have a large platform because I'm a model even, right? Because I'm an Instagram model, right? And so whatever these types of things may be, because of those things, I have a large platform. And so now I'm going to speak on this thing that has nothing to do with why so many people tune into my particular platform. It's dangerous, it's irresponsible, and at this day and age, it's very, very ignorant. Because again, we're living in the information age, where you could fucking know whatever you want to know, right? Anything that you want to know, you could actually spend time on it and you can learn it. Choosing not to is just that. It is an absolute choice that each individual is making on their own. So, when you talk about the comments that Erica Lachey made, and I'm not saying that she's ignorant, right? I'm not necessarily saying that, although I think you may, right? I'm not necessarily saying that. What I am saying, though, you can't paint a partial picture and present it as though it is complete. And I think that is what she did in this particular audio. Sonya, do we got that queued up? We got that queued up. Let me pop on the sound for that. And let's get out to the commentary for, again, her name is Erica Lachey, and she is a thought leader in the black community.
This was her take on economics for black people yesterday.
Let me tell y'all something. This ain't where you come to complain about our problems as a people, then scrutinize every solution. I tweeted about the Asian community, how they have the lowest voter turnout, yet they own a lot of their communities. And then I asked, what do they know about group economics that we don't? And all I got from the black community was excuses, reasons why they were allowed to do that, and the reasons why massa won't let us. Of course, we work hard, but let's not pretend like we don't need help when it comes to financial literacy and business altogether. Are we systematically oppressed? Yes, but what we gonna do about it? Lick our wounds, talk about it, and hope it changes? Do we actually want to build generational wealth, or do we want to complain that we don't have it? Do we actually want to close the wealth gap, or just talk about the wealth gap problem? It's way too many, and I mean way too many people on here that just want to talk about problems instead of implementing solutions. And they're the same ones who gonna die broke, die struggling, all while screaming about fighting white supremacy. Let me tell y'all a secret that legit everyone else knows but us. You fight white supremacy with economic power.
That is Erica Lachey giving her take
on the state of black economics in America. And the first thing I want to say is that there are parts of what the sister said that I agree with, right? I think that, it is an exercise in futility to merely talk about things and not implement them in your personal life, not implement them in your own circle, not encourage other people to implement them in their personal lives and within their own circles. I agree with that part of what she's saying. I agree with her on saying, okay, how long are we just going to complain about it? What are we going to do about it? I agree with her on saying, do we expect the same people who oppressed us to actually come and liberate us. What I don't agree with her on is the blatant disregard for the significance of the oppressive state that we've been in, the systemic oppression that we've had to deal with for centuries. And I think that she blatantly disregarded it in a way that turned me off from her particular commentary. If she had said, okay, we've been oppressed, right? And it's significant, and it has absolutely caused every single problem that we have. And we need to acknowledge that as we move forward. But what I heard from her was same shit we were talking about from Akon the other day. Black people need to get over that shit. Black people need to forget about it. And forget about it how? What has been done to rectify it? What has been done to kind of balance out those wrongs and give us a chance to move past it? I think that is where the oversight came in from her particular commentary, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can hear that. But my problem is, how do you get over something that's not done? We talk about shit like it's past tense.
Say that.
You still live in this environment right now.
Say that.
You're still suffering through these oppressions right now. And that's what I mean is like we lack the understanding, right? So again, we go what's the largest political fight or social justice fight that's happening in the world today, at least in America? It's police brutality.
Absolutely.
Well, what the fuck are the police? They're just the first arm of the government.
That's
So you'll get out here and march in the streets, you throw punches at the police, you burn down police cars. All that shit happened last week.
Sure.
But what the fuck is the police? They're just the first accessible arm of the government.
Right.
Come November, let's see how many of these motherfuckers go vote. And what the fuck are you voting for? Because you ain't paid attention to the platforms of either candidate. That's why Kamala Harris can get slipped under the rug as a black woman.
Big facts.
And it's good enough that she's a black woman because you don't know shit about her policy. You don't know shit about her at all. Right? Therein lies the struggle. We are fascinated by the show. We will engage in the show. We will invest in the show. But when it comes to the work, we fall the fuck back. And the work is in learning the information.
Right.
That's the part that we seemingly can't grasp.
Right.
Right? So even and I'm not knocking the sister, whoever.
Erica Lachey.
Erica Lachey. I'm not knocking the sister. I've seen her say some other things that I thought was brilliant. But in regards to our understanding of our positioning, the social norm of this society is to keep us unaware. That's how this shit is effective. Right? It's an illusion that keeps going. It's like a goddamn magic trick. You know what I mean? It's deceptive. And if you're not really vested in finding out those answers and using critical thought, you're never going to find those answers. If you're just mimicking the narratives that you already hear, the narratives are already set to keep you in the dark. And if you're just going to mimic those narratives, you're never going to get out the dark.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I agree that, we have to get to a space where we are actually thinking for ourselves, right? And we say it all the time. In this day and age, we want your opinion, we'll give it to you, right? That's pretty much the state of society. When we want your opinion, we will give it to you. We'll give it to you through social media, we'll give it to you through programming, we'll give it to you through commercials or ads or whatever else it may be. That is the whole conversation about the presidential election being fixed or hacked, right? Through social media. We're going to give you your opinion. We're going to tell you what to think about this. We're going to tell you who to go vote for. And by many, many accounts, it fucking worked and got his ass into the Oval Office, right? And so I think that, again, if we're going to get to a space where we're really talking about how we can liberate ourselves, we got to be fully informed about what we're talking about. We got to be fully aware of our history, how we got here, and be intentional about the way we go about overcoming this thing. And it can't just be about, get over it. That's bullshit, right? That's complete bullshit.
But it goes back to the first analogy I said. Like, if you don't understand the problem, how the fuck did you expect to fix it? Right? I can't remember who said it, but someone in the chat said just because you're a goddamn cancer patient don't make you an expert on cancer. And that's real. You a fucking victim to cancer. You don't know shit about it. That's just what it is, and we're victims, right? But in that victimless state, just like a cancer patient, if your ass want to survive, you better start learning.
You better start learning.
You better start fucking learning.
You better start learning because it's going to kill you. Right? It ain't no doubt about it. It's going to kill you. Now, whether you're going to do something about it or not, that's on you. And again, I really think that what she was really trying to get across was we gotta get some action behind the conversations, right? And we agree with that too, right? I don't want to sound, because this is a conversation, right? I don't want to sound hypocritical because we have a conversation on a daily basis, right? But again, these are things that you and I have implemented in our personal lives and in our own circles well before I said what I said was even a conversation, right? And so I get what she's saying about it has to be some action behind those words. But when you open up this door about, you know, the systems of oppression not being as important as how we respond to it, that's why I have some pushback on that.
For me, it's always a nuanced conversation.
Sure.
Right. My true belief, I don't even really spew that shit openly often because I know nobody's ready to receive it. I don't think that wealth building is our answer to defeating white supremacy. I truly don't. I think that's our answer to assimilating into white supremacy.
Sure.
As to effective leveraging into the system.
Sure.
I don't think that's the answer to eliminating it.
Sure.
I think the answer is way more simple. I think the answer is just letting go of their fucking value system. It's really that simple. I don't value what the fuck you selling. I ain't got to buy it.
Period.
Period.
Your luxury cars don't mean shit to me.
Your cars, period, don't mean shit to me.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, I got a car.
Right.
But you know, come weather change, I don't even touch that motherfucker.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, there's a bunch of reasons why I don't touch that motherfucker. One, I get exercise by riding my bike, but there's another reason too. And the second reason is really more valuable to me than the goddamn exercise.
Filling the streets.
And it gives me a different perspective, and it provides me peace in my soul. That's bigger than the fucking exercise to me, right? But most of us aren't operating in that space. It just is what it is. The real answer is a spiritual there's only one in my mind.
Sure.
There's only one universal narrative in America.
And that is?
Win. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And if your whole existence is predicated on winning at all costs, right, then morality can't fucking exist. It can't exist. And if morality can't, you know, it was interesting listening to Michelle Obama's goddamn speech at the DNC this week.
Sure.
And listening to the responses and the America she painted. I was like, where the fuck is that place?
Sure.
I've never seen that fucking place. But I saw our community saying, ooh, look at Michelle. She doing her thing. Lying like hell, though.
Salesman.
Selling the shit out of an idea that, from a black perspective, I can't see how you confused.
That's what it is, though. That's what they're doing. They're trying to sell 51% of voters that America is a better and different place than the one we've experienced for the last 4 years, right? Although in the previous 8 years, before that, it's been the fucking same.
But the paramount statement that she made in her speech was about empathy. And she talked
Towards
about
who?
how for the last 4 years we've not seen any empathy.
Right.
And she was like, what kind of the large populace of Americans are all empathetic people. Like, if you see somebody down, you don't talk about them, you say, how can I help?
And empathy is going to come from a former prosecutor and the author of the crime bill.
No, fuck that. Fuck them.
Uh-huh.
You don't even see that on the corner. You won't even look homeless people in their face. The fuck out of here. What America is that?
Sure.
Get the fuck out of here.
Sure.
So you're creating a narrative that they're supposed to stand by.
Sure.
But don't nobody stand by it.
Sure.
Don't nobody live like that.
Sure.
It's fuck you. Here's the deal.
I'm in pursuit of my shit.
Right? Look, we have all this violence in our community. We break that shit down to the numbers. This is probably like less than 1% of perpetrators of violence in each community in the city of Chicago. But you won't leave out your fucking front door. So that 1%, because they're more aggressive than you, dominate the energy of your community. Why? Because your scary ass is only concerned about what's happening behind your front door instead of what's happening in front of your front door. As if what's happening in front of your front door don't have the ability to come through that motherfucker.
And it does.
And it does all the time.
Or at the very
least. That's why you hear, my baby ain't never hurt nobody. Right. But he still got smoked at Bebe's party.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
It's coming.
Right.
It's always coming.
Right.
Until you stand up in your proper polarity.
Right.
And be who you're supposed to be in the eyes of God and the universe. Not in the eyes of man law, but in the eyes of universal law. All of this shit is connected. The fucking flowers go to bees, that's so does the oxygen. We all go. It's all interconnected.
I think that far too often you have people who are unwilling to acknowledge their role or responsibility in the state of our communities, right? And I think all of us have a role, a responsibility, and should take some accountability for the state of our communities. But far too often, and I hear this a lot from people will say, well, I've been living in this community since 1970 this, or I've been living in this community since 1960 this, and when I moved here it was so pristine and it was well run and it functioned like this and it functioned like that, and now it's run down and looks like this, and it's like, excuse me, can I ask you, can I just pause you parenthetically for a second? When you moved here, it was pristine, well functioning community. You've been here the whole time and now it's not. You aren't going to take any responsibility for that? You're going to lay all of that at the feet of 15 and 16-year-old kids? Really? Like, you ain't going to take... Whose fucking kids are those? Whose grandkids are those? But you fucking scared of your grandson, right? That's a problem. That is a problem that you are scared to go address somebody your grandchild's age.
And even being more afraid of your grandson, you more afraid of white power.
Big facts.
Right? And so because you won't address white power, you blame the weakest person in the cycle of your community, which is the youth.
Right.
Right?
Because what the fuck can they do?
If you address white power, then you have to address all the other failures that systemically happened when your grandson showed up.
Yeah, but it's easy to say, oh, I worked my job for 45 years and I paid for my house and I put my child in school and these kids are crazy. No.
Here's the reality, G. We live in capitalist America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Race and capital are bed brothers.
Oh,
you know what I mean? They're soulmates.
Absolutely.
They happen concurrently. They happen in conjunction.
Absolutely they do.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got two options, right?
Mm-hmm.
We either have to topple this capitalist system and take control of it and victimize everybody else in it,
mm-hmm.
right?
Because there will be a victim in capitalism.
There's going to be a victim,
mm-hmm.
right? And that's what, if you're the victimizer, you can at least find comfort that it ain't you just getting fucked up. Right?
Sure.
That's your only option. Or you can completely drop out.
Mm-hmm.
And completely dropping out is getting harder and harder. And then when I say completely drop out, I mean living off the land like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, learning how to really start a fire to heat your house.
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to hunt to cook your food.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, how many of us is going to take that option?
Yeah, very few.
Right? So the only
we don't even have the skill set.
The only other option you have is to legitimately topple the system and take it over.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see how you do that through voting. I don't see how you do that through politics at all.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I can only see that through physicality.
Can you whip my ass though?
That's it.
And I think that for us, that question of can you whip my ass though has to be more complex, right? Because I'm not here calling for an all-out war. I think eventually they'll send the National Guard down Stony Island or down 79th Street, and all of us will be fucked up, right? But I think that the conversation has to be, what do we have that we can use to win this particular battle? And I think, again, it's about sacrifice, it's about commitment, it's about using every single thing that we have. We're the service class, ain't no fucking service. It's all shut down. It's over with.
Capitalism is continually growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the concept of slavery, right? When I say we don't fully grasp and understand the positioning that we are in this country,
sure.
Right? Even when we talk about slavery, we talk about slavery as a workforce. But it really wasn't a workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Slaves were the goddamn product.
Period.
They were not the workforce, they were the product.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that changes the context. If they're the product and this is what keeps the capital flowing, then you going to always keep your product on your shelves.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to always keep the capital flowing.
Absolutely.
Right? Entertainment is one of America's greatest exports.
Mm-hmm.
But who the fuck creates that?
Us.
That's it, right? Prison, a great economic engine.
Yeah.
But who the fuck is the labor force there?
If LeBron, Dame Lillard, and everybody else walked off those courts today, nobody's watching basketball tomorrow. And you can say they're gonna find replacement players, but I'm saying if every black person in this country is like, no, we're not fucking with it, right? Nobody, not even white people, are going to sit and watch 24 white boys play basketball in 2020.
Again.
In 1960, cool. But once you've seen the likes of Dr. J, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, you're not finna watch Bob Cousy hoop no more. You're just not gonna do it.
Yeah, but we always address the cancer from where it's metastasized at, never from the root.
Mm-hmm.
Until you cut it out from the root, it's just going to be cancerous.
Mm-hmm.
It just is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
man. So again, it's that therein lies the conversation. I say I don't often say that out loud because I know there's a level of understanding we just haven't yet gotten to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You question capitalism, and the greatest response is like, well, what else is there?
Right.
As if this is the only possible system of government.
As though there aren't other countries thriving in other systems.
Fuck every system of government.
Sure.
Why can't you?
But still,
self-govern?
I'm saying that there are other examples of things that are going on, even self-governing, right? Like there are other examples of things that are going on where people are successful. But again, it requires the work. And I think that's the point that you were making earlier. The work is what people don't want to do, right? We are not so uncomfortable. We are not yet so uncomfortable to where we want to do something else. And I think that was the discomfort that we felt in the 40s and the 50s that led to the energy in the 60s for the Black Liberation Movement. That was the type of energy that caused us to say, okay, I'm so uncomfortable, we must do something else. I don't think we're that uncomfortable right now. Regardless of, it seems like we should be. I don't think we are.
But the way capitalism works, though, right? The more aggressive it gets, the more lazy we get, right? Because as technology grows, it really does make us dumb.
Oh yeah.
Right. So when you think of, I went to Detroit one time, man, and this shit, I think I've told you this story before. But I got some family in Detroit. And they wanted to go to the Ford factory.
Shout out to the
Right.
D.
And I love the D, but
Yeah.
I had no interest in going to the goddamn Ford factory. You know what I mean? Like that don't move me at all. I don't give a shit.
Sure, I get that.
But I went to the Ford factory because my family forced me. And at the Ford factory, they played this documentary on Henry Ford, and this shit blew my mind. Blew my mind. It's probably one of the greatest documentaries I ever seen. You know, and when you think about Henry Ford, you often think about the Model T or the Ford car, but really, what Henry Ford is really most important, what his greatest invention was the assembly line. Right? I can mass produce some shit at a time when mass production wasn't a real thing. I can mass produce it. Not only can I mass produce it, but he realized that because the people who worked at the Ford plant couldn't afford the product, he was losing money. So then he found cheaper ways to make the product. So now that he could sell the shit to the people who worked there. So the more mass production I can have, the more mass consumption I can have. So you think about before the assembly line, there was really no mass production. So what's that mean? If there's no mass production, you growing your goddamn groceries in the backyard.
Period.
Right? Everywhere you got to go is a couple miles away. You ain't going too far from your crib because everybody ain't got a car. You ain't got that kind of access. But what happens behind mass production and mass consumption? You get mass marketing. Right? We got a black screen again. I don't know what's going on.
No,
you get mass marketing, right? And this kind of group think grows up out of that mass marketing construct. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
that's even greater than the products that they sell through that shit. Is that I said this last week. Salespeople sell ideas. That's what they're selling. They're not selling products. And there's an idea of comfort in America based on what you're being afforded, right? So, but the truth is, as black people specifically, right, we see it in the pandemic, right? We suffer behind that more than anybody else, right? So what you start to see in that pandemic is that America's a first world country, but black people in America live within third world conditions.
Absolutely.
Right, but we don't cognitively think of it like that. We don't consciously think of it like that. I'm going to the bathroom. You go to the islands and be like, man, they fucked up.
Right.
No, you live in the same experience.
But you look at things like the birth mortality rate, right? And for black people, that is absolutely a third world statistic when you compare it to that of white people, right? It's a different type of existence, and that's another conversation that we're going to get into in the second hour. If you're just tuning in, this is I Said What I Said. My name is Herb Howard. His name is Toussaint Warner. Each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. right here on the Mace Jackson page, we come to you and we talk about issues that are affecting the black community, how we can overcome those as individuals, and more importantly, as a collective. We greatly, greatly appreciate you all choosing to be a part of the conversation. If you have not already done so, please take a quick moment to share the conversation. Share it on your personal page, share within your personal network as well. You can also support the show financially by clicking on the gold stars at the bottom of your screen. Each and every one of those stars, we greatly, greatly appreciate it. It continues to help us to bring a better product to you each and every day. So thank you so much for choosing to be a part of this conversation. It truly, truly, truly means the world to us. We opened this conversation just kind of catching y'all up on what's going on with me and Two. Two got braids today, if y'all haven't noticed. Two ain't had a haircut since February, and so he got braids today. Shout out to his daughter for braiding him up today. I've been on my bike, so we talked about that a little bit. And Two can't really hop on his bike right now because though he's 44 years old, he has the hip of an 84-year-old man. And
I'm riding though. I don't give a fuck what that doctor say. Hey, live like a lion rather than a lamb.
I dig
Don't
it.
live like a lion. It just is what it is.
We moved on to a conversation in response to a video from a sister named Erica Lachey, who again has been a thought leader in the black community, and she is very, very much pro-black. This is not in any way to denigrate her in any particular shape or form, but it's to say that I don't disagree with the picture that she painted in that particular video. We played the audio for you all earlier. There's another audio that we want to play in conjunction with that video. Obviously, this is in a direct response. This is a video from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. From an interview that he did about 11 months before he was assassinated, in which he is also going to talk about the economic state of affairs for black people in America. You're going to hear from Dr. King right now.
Not easily, but somehow got around it. Is it just the fact that Negroes are black?
That's a part of it, and that grows out of something else. You can't thingify anything without depersonalizing that something. If you use something as a means to an end, at that moment you make it a thing and you depersonalize it. The fact is that the Negro was a slave in this country for 244 years. That was a willful thing that was done. The Negro was brought here in chains, treated in very inhuman fashion, and this led to the thingification of the Negro. So he was not looked upon as a person. He was not looked upon as a human being with the same status and worth as other human beings. And the other thing is that human beings cannot continue to do wrong without eventually rationalizing that wrong. So slavery was justified morally, biologically, theoretically, scientifically, everything else. And it seems to me that white America must see that no other ethnic group has been a slave on American soil. That is one thing that other immigrant groups haven't had to face. The other thing is that the color became a stigma. American society made the Negro's color a stigma, and that can never be overlooked. So I think these things are absolutely necessary. The other thing is that America freed the slaves in 1863 through the Emancipation Proclamation of Abraham Lincoln, but gave the slaves no land or nothing in reality, and as a matter of fact, to get started on. At the same time, America was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that there was a willingness to give the white peasants from Europe an economic base. And yet it refused to give its black peasants from Africa, who came here involuntarily in chains and had worked free for 244 years, any kind of economic base. And so emancipation for the Negro was really freedom to hunger. It was freedom to the winds and rains of heaven. It was freedom without food to eat or land to cultivate, and therefore it was freedom and famine at the same time. And when white Americans tell the Negro to lift himself by his own bootstraps, they don't look over the legacy of slavery and segregation. I believe we ought to do all we can and seek to lift ourselves by our own bootstraps. But it's a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And many Negroes, by the thousands and millions, have been left bootless as a result of all of these years of oppression and as a result of a society that deliberately made his color a stigma and something worthless and degrading.
That was audio from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. again from an interview that he did about 11 months before he was assassinated, talking about the state of black economics in America. The question that was posed to him was, why can't black people, similar to how other cultures have come over to this country,
Get their shit together.
why can't they get their shit together, right? Why can't they elevate themselves out of their current circumstances?
Mm-hmm. That goes back to that same bullshit ass statement Michelle Obama made the other night about how empathetic America is, right? Mm-hmm. So that white man came in there in clear consciousness and said, I just don't get it. What's wrong with you, motherfucker? Right? And Dr. King, in his eloquent way, said, motherfucker, your wealth was given to you.
Right.
It was legislated.
Right. You ain't
didn't
pull
do
yourself
that
up
shit.
by your bootstraps.
You didn't do. Now he didn't say it directly to him, but if you got half a fucking brain, you say, "Well, wait a minute." Right?
Well, you
Therein
didn't even
lies
do
the
that.
context of the understanding. Right?
Right.
Slaves were the fucking product. Wealth is legislated. That's why government is important. That's why reparations is necessary. Right? That's the context of the conversation we should be having. So when it comes to Joe Biden, when it comes to Donald Trump, I don't give a fuck about neither of them. What I care about is the agenda that we have for our community. And in this very moment, we're suffering under the weight of immense poverty. Capitalism and wealth is calcifying in America. And what that means is that the gap is getting wider and wider. They say this is the greatest level of wealth disparity since slavery, or even during slavery.
Sure.
Right? So when you understand that, then you have less value than a motherfucking slave.
Right.
Right?
In a real way.
This is the honest conversation. So for us, the only conversation we could be having that makes any damn sense, the only agenda that we should have, the only agenda that really encompasses all of our experiences is that you owe us, fam.
Period.
Run me my fucking money.
Period.
Because if we don't get our money, the suffering that we're enduring now is going to get greater. Period. Because wealth is calcifying. Right? Another conversation they had during the DNC. It said 50% of all American employees are hired by small businesses. What the fuck is the place of a small business in the world where Amazon exists?
Right.
What place does a small business have in the world where Walmart exists?
It doesn't have a place.
It doesn't have a fucking place. They don't care about you, man.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Can you whip my ass though?
Fuck you. But we don't come to the conversation with can you whoop my ass though.
Right.
We come to the conversation subserviently.
Can you please?
Can you please help?
Right.
That ain't gonna never get it.
Nah, because they don't have no incentive to help.
No incentive.
They have no desire to help, no incentive to help. Why the fuck would they help? I wouldn't fucking help if I was in their position. Right? You know what I mean? Like you either take it over and you dominate it, or you leave it the fuck alone. The issue with trying to take over a game that you're 400 years behind is that shit is damn near impossible. Right? Not when you're talking about just assimilating into the rules of the game as they are. And so if we are, again, afraid to or discouraged by the idea of somehow playing outside of the current parameters of that particular game, and we don't have no real chance of overcoming that shit. It's not a real concept. It's a lie, really, right? We don't. That's not a real thing for us to be able to do. And I think that if we are serious about trying to overcome this thing, then we also have to be serious about just saying, you know what? I don't have to play this game by y'all rules, right? So if y'all pissed off that we decided to come down there and break y'all fucking glass or steal y'all shit, fuck you. Stop me.
But even look at the conversation around the breaking of the glass down.
And I'm not advocating for that. I'm not even saying that's the best solution forward. But I am saying fuck your rules though.
I'm advocating for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the concept that I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a conversation, there's a conflicting conversation happening in our community right now.
Sure.
The old heads like, I ain't with that shit. Why y'all doing that shit? Now, why the old heads saying that? Because they've been baby boomers. No, because they were baby boomers and they benefited from American wealth distribution.
Mm.
So they had an experience that the youth that they have given birth to ain't never gonna fucking have. So while your comfortable ass got to work in a factory all your life and made enough money to not only supplement a whole family, you made enough money to make some fucking side investments. You got motherfuckers who graduated in college now working 4 jobs, can't pay for a fucking apartment. This ain't the same world. We ain't inherit your world. What we did was we inherited the true America. You got lucky as shit.
Right.
You got lucky as shit because no generation before you and no generation after you have had that experience.
Right.
You got fucking lucky.
Right.
Right? So when you berate me for my experiences and my choices and why I ain't living up to the standards that you setting, it's because one, you don't have no cognitive understanding of how your ass got help. That's it.
It also places a level of responsibility and, in my opinion, a level of accountability on that particular generation. And again, it's not to point fingers. I'm not trying to create a divide here, right? I'm simply trying to say nobody amongst us can sit perched up above the rest and say, look what I did, you need to do the same, right? Because if you were the first and only to have that kind of access, to have that kind of opportunity, then you had a responsibility there too, right?
That you did not take a hold of.
Right. You came through that door and then you shut that motherfucker behind
You
you.
didn't even shut it. You were supposed to open another fucking door, right? But what you did was you worked your ass at IBM until you got your fucking watch and you retired and you left. But you didn't build a motherfucking thing.
You got your
You didn't
motherfucking
build
watch.
shit.
That's real.
You just was a high-paid employee, a high-paid slave. You didn't build shit. Therein lies the difference. Listen, man. My grandfather, I talk about him all the time. World War II veteran, bought a house on 95th Street, right? That house probably cost him $10,000, and because of legislation, right? That house is worth $100,000 today. Now you take that same builder, that same house, and you build that shit in Bridgeport at the same amount at the same time.
Sure.
Right? That land has accumulated wealth, right? So now that same house that same white World War II veteran probably paid $10,000 to. By the time 1970 came around, the house might have been worth $70,000, $80,000. So he didn't have his first row of kids. You know what I'm saying? His son's gonna come to him and say, "Hey, Dad, I want to go to college." Well, here's your college fund right here, son. I'm gonna pull out the equity in the house. Right, so his son goes to school for free, essentially. Not for free, but it's paid for.
Sure.
The debt is not taken on by the child, right? So he comes out and he goes to work for IBM or wherever the fuck he goes to work for. Who cares, right? But he's starting fresh. He goes buys another house in Bridgeport. Now they got two equitable properties that are gaining equity faster than a house on 95th Street. So by the time the son has a child and the old guy has a grandchild, that child comes over his 20s and say, "Man, fuck some college. I want to start a business." Well, here's the investment money because we're going to pull the equity out the house.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Now they're building shit. But
Right.
it all came from legislation.
Right.
Right? There's I can't think of the name of the book right now, but in the book it states that black people have been a contagion to wealth. It don't matter what the fuck you do. You ain't getting it. You ain't getting it because we're legislating for you to never get it. And it's really that simple. But we don't understand that because we have not invested in the information. Right? Even in regards to our ancestors, we always say dumbass shit like, "My ancestors died for us to have the right to vote." Bullshit, not my ancestors.
Right.
My ancestors died for freedom. Voting was just a goddamn strategy to get to it. They ain't died for no fucking vote.
Right.
Not ever. Not ever. If it came down to killing your ass with a hacksaw, they was gonna do that too.
Right.
You ain't doing that shit out in the street. Where's that part of my ancestors died for that
Right.
shit?
Where that part at?
Where that part? I want to see some of that. So we just gotta dig a little bit deeper, man. Again, we gotta stop reciting just the same narrative that the oppressor gives us to recite. Think about this shit, man. There's literally a term today called peaceful fucking protesting.
That's
How
asinine.
is that possible?
Right.
You cannot. The very definition of protest is to disrupt.
It's an oxymoron.
You cannot have a disruption and peace simultaneously.
Absolutely.
But that's the kind of dumbass shit we champion.
We do.
And we just got to get up off that, man.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I think that we get in this space where I really think it's about comfort too. I really think it's just about, it's easier, right? It's just a little bit easier for me to lay here, right? Even though you got your motherfucking foot on your throat, it's easy for me to lay here and deal with that shit than it is for me to get up and go build a whole new fucking world, right? Even though I'm capable of doing it, right? I have the ability. I have some of the leverage to be able to do those things, right? Now, am I still behind? Absolutely. Could this cost me my life? Absolutely, right? I'm not sitting here saying inherent risk involved in I'm simply looking at the obvious set of circumstances that are before us and saying, we're gonna fucking die anyway, right? So if we're gonna die anyway, motherfucker, I'm going down kicking, screaming, and hollering. I'm not finna lay here and just wait till I pass out based off what you're doing. I'm finna try to get my ass up and figure out something else. Now, if I get my ass up and because you got a 400-year head start and you use your systems and you ultimately stump me out, it is what it is. But I went the way I wanted to go because you were trying to kill me anyway.
So again, like I say, man, I rarely tell my full truth publicly because I just don't believe that we're really ready to have this very spiritual and very necessary conversation, right? The only value of this goddamn life that we live, man, in truth, in my estimation, is to give and receive love. It don't really go nowhere past that shit. You know what I mean? And I know that I was extremely blessed to be born into a family where I absolutely received that the moment I showed the fuck up on this planet. Right? So because I received it this moment I showed up on this planet, I've understood it in a way that I know, like, you know, my boys just live right next door to me didn't understand it. It just is what it is. So what you do is you search for value outside of you instead of inside of you. And it dictates every choice going forward. But it's not easier to stand there and take that shit laying down. You've just been accustomed to it. And you're accustomed to it because you don't love yourself enough to challenge it. That's it. That's it. I worked a job, and as a young man, I had all kind of jobs. But as an adult, man, I had a job for a year. I'm not built for this shit. I love me too much. I ain't never gonna work for no fucking body.
I'm not either.
Right? But I have the wherewithal to put that on my back and say, whatever challenges I gotta face, I'm gonna walk through them shits. Whatever they might be. Right? I might not be in the cool crowd for the first 10 years of my life. I ain't gonna have the right cop.
Right.
I ain't gonna have all the shit that you say is valuable. I probably ain't gonna have that shit.
And I don't even deem it as valuable in the first place.
No, I deemed it as valuable. Don't get it twisted. I wanted the right cop. I wanted the right address.
You don't deem it as valuable on the same level, because if you did, you'd have went and took the $80,000 gig.
That's true.
You know
That's true.
what I mean?
But that doesn't escape the fact that I'm a victim of the society too. I'm born here.
Sure.
Right? So I see the same shit. The lights, I can't say I don't see the lights and the shit don't mean nothing to me.
I
like
it.
the lights. You know what I mean?
I get it.
It works.
Liking it, looking at it and seeing it as something that looks visually appealing is not the same as valuing it above other things that I value. Freedom, liberation, right? Doing my own shit. I don't value it above those things, is what I'm saying when I'm talking about the actual value of it that you place on it.
Yeah, that might be true, but I'm just giving you my perspective.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not like that shit didn't mean that. It meant something.
Yeah.
But
Wow,
for
for sure.
me, it meant something it meant more to have control of my own destiny. You know what I mean? And a lot of us don't see it that way. You know, it becomes a bigger burden to have to take on the responsibility of seeing it your own way. Like there's statements, there's colloquialisms that say entrepreneurialism isn't for everybody. But what the fuck did you do before large corporations existed? What the fuck did humans do before systems existed? You had to make your own way. It's just a choice. It's just a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
And I think that, people will find extreme value in being able to make that choice for themselves once they actually go about the business of making it. I think that if they actually, put themselves in a position where they make those decisions for themselves and they've actually built a life that, okay, maybe it's not this life or that life or even the life that I had once imagined, but it is my life. And I do get to decide what I'm going to do on a daily basis. And I do know exactly where, because we talked about this earlier in terms of not only what we consume intellectually, but what we actually consume physically, with the things that we eat, the things that we put into our body, right? So if we got community gardens, I know exactly where the fuck that food is coming from. Does it take some work to get a community garden going? Yes. Does it take some cooperation to get a community garden going? Absolutely it does. But if you put that work in, once that work is done, I know exactly what the fuck I'm eating. I know exactly where it comes from. I know exactly who's growing it. I know exactly who's involved in it, right? And it's all ours. And I think the same thing can come from your economic state as well.
Hold on, Herb. I want to address this comment from the chat, man. And this is what I mean about we got to expand our understanding and expand our ability to cognitively communicate and comprehend. Kobe Michael Jones, I'm going to give you the attention that you're looking for. Right? You said this sounds like a narrow-minded, naive conversation for those that agree with you and only you. Like you're mad at those who fought and sacrificed to create a better future for our descendants.
Fought and sacrificed.
So, actually, Kobe, you're completely off base. What I am doing is championing our ancestors for what they did. But because you have the narrow-minded view and you've bought into the American idea, you're the one who has the narrow-minded view, and that's the goddamn conversation that we having. You gotta escape the prison of your mind, bro. You gotta escape the prison. It's not me that's in the prison. It's you. And because you can't comprehend the conversation, you fight back with colloquialisms. And that's always what happens. Like, if you don't vote for Biden, you're voting for Trump. Why the fuck am I?
Right.
If a non-vote is a vote, I'm not fucking with y'all.
Right.
Neither y'all.
Right.
That's a vote.
Right. I'm gonna go to the ballot. I'm gonna vote down ballot. I don't like neither one of y'all. I ain't voting for neither one of y'all. I'm gonna vote for other shit, because fuck both of y'all, right? I think that once you have bought into the American system and how things go, then and if you've been able to amass some semblance of success within that system, even though relatively speaking that success is fucking minimal, right? If you've been able to amass some of it, then you kind of have this chest poked out approach to it and says, well, Why the fuck can't we do it like this? We should do it like that. Everybody needs to lift themselves up and then provide for their children. Because he's talking about his own decisions, right? He's talking about, well, I went to school and I did this and I did that and I did that and now I'm able to provide for my...
I advise
There's a
everybody-
larger conversation at hand here, sir.
So I'd advise everybody within earshot of our conversation, if they can, go get the book, The Color of Law.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I got that quote from. The Black people are a contagion of wealth. It's a Jewish white author. And the context of the conversation is not completely based in race. It's really completely based in how housing worked and how they created the housing standards in America. Right? But again, once you start to fully grasp and understand race, you see how that housing legislation navigated and essentially legislated wealth.
Mm-hmm.
We always talk about building wealth for the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
You hear that shit in conversations from people 15 to 75,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the how part doesn't exist. The how part doesn't exist.
No.
And the reason the how part doesn't exist, because what we don't quantify is that legislation built that shit.
Period.
You ain't special.
Period.
Right? Ideas flow freely all the goddamn time, man.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a meme today that said, man, it was a meme of a dude standing on top of about 85 ladders.
Damn, that's unfortunate.
Right? A dude was standing on like 85 ladders and he was trying to see over like some kind of barrier.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of just standing the ladders upright, he was just kind of laying them on top of each other. And the meme said, you can have all the resources in the world, but if you don't know what to do with them, they're not valuable. And that's real true.
It's very true.
But there's another part of that truth too. If you don't have the fucking resources, it don't matter what your goal is, you're not getting to it.
I'm not getting it.
So at least if you have them and you're using them wrong, you got the option to fucking learn.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the resources. That's why I always bring up the wealth difference.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's why I always say we got $1,700 net worth. Boston black people got an $8 net worth. California black people have a $200 net worth.
Mm-hmm.
Miami black people got something like a $13 net worth. What the fuck are you doing with that? So again, I said there's a nuanced conversation, right? I have a higher belief in spirituality is really being an answer, but I understand that we are suffering and we're bleeding out. We're hemorrhaging right now.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, to stop the hemorrhaging and stop the bleeding, we need finances, because mentally and spiritually, we're not ready to let go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. And if you're not ready to let go, you have to leverage the system in which you're in to try to bring forth some level of healing. But the overarching conversation is really that the goddamn system is the purveyor of the sickness.
Right.
And you can't get healthy there.
Yeah, but not only can you not get healthy, I would say that you're becoming more insane. I think you're becoming more, like you become complicit in many ways in your own demise. And again, there are many things that we do to be complicit in our own demise, right? There are a lot of things that we partake in that are not beneficial to our own cause. But I would say paramount amongst those is assimilating to a culture or to a system that was not designed for us, and it was in fact designed to bring about our demise. And the more and more we assimilate ourselves or try to assimilate ourselves into that system, because let's be clear, I don't give a fuck how well you try to play their game, you still aren't going to be a part of it. They aren't going to let you into it in that fucking real way. And I don't care who you are. The moment they decide, we done with your ass, we done with your ass. It don't matter if you're Nick Cannon or Bill Cosby or pick somebody. It don't fucking matter. So as we continue to try and assimilate ourselves, because I want the middle class home and I want the 3 cars and the 3-car garage and I want the dog and I want, dude, that's bullshit. It's not even real. You are not really in the game that way, right? And then for you to then play that game, but then turn around and look at everybody and say, "Oh, y'all don't know how to do it, right? Y'all not elevating yourselves properly. You're not." No, it's fucking you, right? Because you think that, well, listen, I go put in 70 hours a week at this particular organization and it yields me this. If you're gonna put in 70 hours a week, do it for your motherfucking self.
Man, listen, America's like candy, right? As a concept, it's like candy, right? You can eat it, you can put it in your body, but it provides no nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what America is.
Mm-hmm.
And of all of American citizens, we are the most American of all of them.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with that.
Everybody else came here by choice, and they also came here with a system. They also came here with a culture,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were stripped and robbed of our culture, right? And we had to create a new one in the midst of the experience that we was having.
Right.
And the very basis of America is falsehood. The very basis of America is candy. There's no
Right.
substance here.
Right.
Right? So in a lot of ways, what we do, what we are, we just resemble the truth of America.
Right.
And that's a harsh reality. Black people resemble the truth of America. It's very minimal substance. We great at entertaining people,
Oh yeah.
but it's
Awesome.
very minimal substance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, now here's another way to look at this shit. This is some science project shit too. But what are American-born black people, right? In a lot of ways, we are legitimately a science project. We were bred to be who we became, right?
Mhm.
So if you take that lineage of being African, right? And what do you get out of Africa? You really get the basis of love. And why do you get the basis of love? Is because everything grew in abundance. So it was easier to care more about people than things. Food was in abundance. You could share with your brother because it was everywhere. I ain't tripping over this shit, right? Now you can't get me without a large swath of white people,
Mhm.
right? And where were white people developed? In the Caucasus Mountains, right? So out of scarcity, it was nothing there. So in that energy of scarcity grew, right? I'll kill your ass for this apple.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I'll kill my brother
Right.
for this apple,
Right.
Because I'm going to survive,
Right.
right? Now from
It's life or death.
life or death.
Mhm.
Now, if every human being is the sum total of all that comes before him, well, I'm probably the greatest mix of those two energies. And those are the two most prevailing energies on this planet.
Mhm.
And if you can master those two energies, then what would you be but the most dominant force here?
And that's us.
That's us.
That's us. And that is why we set the standard for culture, not only here, but around the world. Everybody's checking for what the fuck we doing, right? I wanna highlight a comment because to the best of my ability, I'm gonna try and move this way throughout the duration of I Said What I Said. And that is a comment. The comment came from Sirajuddin, good brother, Fifth Element, man. I call it, that's just my man's FIF Fifth. Shout out to Fifth Element, man. He's one of the most brilliant musical encyclopedias that there is on this planet. When I say that, I mean that. You walk in this brother crib or in his basement, he's literally got thousands of records, like fucking vinyl records, right? Phenomenal producer, DJ, all that shit. But more than that, he's a dope ass brother. And what he says is, he said, "Come on, family. We've given dude too much attention already. Let's stay on task with the conversation, right? And as much as I can, right? I'm going to try and not acknowledge that shit, because if you're listening to the conversation, if you're listening to I Said What I Said, and you're really listening to it for comprehension or for understanding, and not just to fucking argue with us, then you will hear the nuance of the conversation. You will understand what we're trying to convey, right? And it's not some shit about nobody doing for self or nobody wanting to work hard enough, or that's complete bullshit. And so I know a lot of those things catch your eye when they say that bullshit, but it's 100 people watching this shit right now. Shout out to everybody on YouTube right now as well. We truly appreciate y'all. Shout out to Sonia Escobar too. Sonia, your camera not up right now. I will pop you into the video. But we greatly appreciate everything you're doing. I ain't checking in with you earlier. How you feeling though?
Book and a pen. This is so deep, guys, and I guess people that don't want to really hear the truth, they don't want to hear it.
Yeah, and they aren't gonna hear it regardless, right? And so I think that we just have to
continue with the conversation. And as Brother Fifth said, like, just stay on task. Like fuck that shit. Because at the end of the day, I think that it's important to, and again, everybody's input is welcome, it's valued. You can say what you want to say. But in terms of the task of what we're trying to get done, and what we're trying to get done, let me be clear, is to unify those of us who are aware that there's a problem in our community and are actively engaged in overcoming that problem in our community, right? Not my individual household. Is how I choose to do things for myself. That's what you're wrong. I don't even know why you're here, to be perfectly honest with you, because this is about the liberation of the group, right? And so if we talk about the liberation of the group, our goal here is to unify those amongst us who are aware there's a problem and actively engage in the problem for the whole. And when we do that, if we all get on the same page, we can then take everything that we know and understand out to the rest of the congregation. I know we're preaching to the choir here in most cases, but everybody's welcome to come into the church. And every now and then you get somebody look up in the church like, who is that motherfucker over there? Like, why he in this particular church, right? And that's fine. You're welcome to be here. But
Wait a minute, man.
I ain't paying no attention.
Listen, I want to shout out Adrian Anderson, Brian DeMar, T. Renee, and Gloria Turner for shooting the stars, man. I really appreciate you all. But in regards to the statement,
Let's not gloss over that because I appreciate the fuck out of it.
I do too. But the conversation we're having right now about not addressing the one comment, because we even have some people in the chat room saying don't address the one comment. But let me explain something to you all, right? Conflict is not the end all be all. Conflict is necessary. Conflict is necessary for growth. We don't got to avoid conflict. I ain't scared of shit. We clear about that. No. Let me finish my statement.
Sure.
Conflict is necessary for growth.
Sure.
Right? When you go to the gym and you lift weights, your fucking muscles explode.
Mm-hmm.
That shit hurts.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes you better for the next time you go to the gym. That is how you build your body.
Mm-hmm.
Conflict is necessary for growth.
Mm-hmm.
That's also part of the American structure. We don't want to deal with no fucking conflict. We don't want to deal with no fucking challenges. This entire journey is about dealing with challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't deal with the fucking challenges, you don't get to the next class.
Right.
All this shit is classrooms, homie. 101. To get to 101, you got to pass 101 to get to number 102.
Mm-hmm.
That requires learning and growing through conflict.
Mm-hmm.
It's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not mad at the brother.
I ain't mad at him either.
Right? But if you got a statement, then so the fuck do I. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
One of us is going to concede or not. But if you keep if we going to stand in our spaces and be, that's kind of like that shit people say in a relationship, this is just who I am. Well, just who you are is a fucking failure.
Right.
That ain't good enough.
Who you are is an asshole.
Right. Who you are is not the standard.
Right.
You got to grow.
Right.
We all got to grow.
Right.
And again, challenge me. Goddamn it, I never said I know it all. I don't even want to be the guy in the room that knows it all.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I expect you to challenge me.
Right.
Right. So I'm not tripping on dude. I just you said it. I wanted to address it.
That's fine.
Wasn't nothing personal.
That's fine, and I agree with that in terms of dealing with conflicts and addressing them and moving on from them or growing beyond them. Right. I get that piece, but if you come in and say, "Oh, this is just about some y'all only talking to these people," and I ain't one of them people. Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks for stopping by. Tell
And
somebody.
so I do melee. Shout out to you for the stars, man. We appreciate everybody who's dropping stars in the comments right now, man.
Queen Antoine Dumele. Damn, you got me. Dumela. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it right eventually.
Get it together.
I'm gonna get it right eventually, Mr.
Yeah,
Douglas.
but
We appreciate you.
Again, man, to the King quote, right? The King conversation
Sure.
we just played.
Sure.
What King talked about was legislating wealth. And he talked about legislating poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He said, you gave us our freedom, but really what you give us freedom and famine.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck all that. Just think how eloquently King spoke in that conversation.
My favorite part of what he said on that was, you talk about pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps, right? And he said, and I'm all for us doing everything we need to do. He said, but it's a cruel jest, right? It's a very bad fucking joke to tell a person to pull themselves up by the bootstraps when he don't got fucking boots.
But you don't got boots.
It's a cruel jest to tell a bootless man to pull themselves up by the bootstraps.
And he don't got boots, right? But outside of that, right? King was so eloquent, man, and that. Not only is he eloquent, but he's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what I said last week, man, is that this energy today that we're experiencing is going to shape a new generation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to shape a new generation in a way that we probably haven't encountered before.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to finally run up against the wall and say, wait, man, we aren't activating our full potential and we don't have the fullest of the answers. But that next generation is going to learn from that and grow upon that. And what's to come is going to be amazing. And I think we just got to get there faster. We got to be hyper in that development, right? So when we start looking at how do we get beyond from all of the things that's happening now, right? It's again, like I said, it's all interconnected. That gumption that it takes to throw that brick through the window, the generation before us didn't have. They didn't have that gumption. That energy got nullified in them. That energy got nullified, right? Because what did they do? They put on a shirt and tie and they went to work, and how well can I follow the rules was what elevated you through society.
Sure. Where
we're getting this new generation that says, how well and how effectively can I break the rules?
Right.
And I'm going to create a new society. I think what you're seeing is the clashes of those two energies right now.
I think that's kind of a question I want to pose to you, right? When you talk about Dr. King, right, who makes it very, very difficult for even the most, greatest opposition. I don't want to say right wing, I don't want to say racist, whatever, who's ever in the greatest opposition of what he's talking about. He makes it even difficult for that person to disagree with him, right? Just because of the way he speaks, the way he presents it, the way he lays it out plain and clear. And I think there's a value in that. I also think there's a value in the way that, say, a Malcolm X would go about it. To say, fuck you. I'm not even trying to say this in a way that makes you feel comfortable with it. I'm not trying to say this in a way that makes you feel better about what I'm saying. I'm saying what the fuck I'm saying. I said what I said.
But
period.
Listen, you said Malcolm, but Malcolm was a very articulate brother too.
Very much so.
Check game though. I value how Jeff Fort said it.
Come on.
Ain't gonna be no motherfucking killing without no motherfucking killing.
Come on.
It still got value.
Come on.
Right? It still got value. Right? But again, how the narrative of white supremacy works, we kind of shunned the Jeff Fort conversation. Jeff Fort can't read. Jeff Fort's a goddamn gang leader.
I gotta find a way to discredit him.
I can discredit him because he doesn't fit into the white man's narrative.
Right.
But how many of y'all got the gumption to say, I dare your ass come to my neighborhood? And
on
he was talking
TV.
to white police officers in a time where you didn't talk to white police officers
On
like that.
TV.
On television.
Okay?
Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot of value to that.
And
I can see it. And
there's
I can
gumption in
appreciate
that.
the
That's real.
That's gumption,
right?
bro.
That's real. I think there's value in both. And you know what I appreciate about our particular dynamic too is that, you know, it kind of flows, right? It kind of just goes, right? And so more often than not, you are more Malcolm, Jeff Fort than I am, right? I'll be on a lot of that too. But in this particular instance, I'm like, man, fuck that shit. We ain't gotta talk about that shit. Like, fuck that. Like, we said, fuck that shit, right? And it just kind of, you know, it kind of changes. There's a freedom to be here, right? There's a free flowing of ideas and communication, so long as it's about black liberation of the whole and not this individual pursuit of my own particular selfish goals. If that's what you want, fine. Just understand you are not playing for the team right now. You over there playing fucking golf or singles tennis right now. We trying to play basketball, football with a whole ass team over here, right? You want some individual shit. Go do that over there, right? Just understand that that's the choice that you're making when you start to talk that bullshit that you're talking. You're making that choice to play this game as an individual. And if you want to go out here as an individual black person and play this white man's game, good fucking luck to you. Good luck to you. And you may find yourself having some semblance of success in your household until the problems of every other black person in this country land on your fucking front door. Because it will.
We got to figure out a better way to title the game, though, because it's really not a white man's game either. It's a power elite game.
Sure.
Right? So white people suffer at the hands of white supremacy too. They just don't know it because they've been undergirded with it in a way that they're comfortable. Right? But that comfort is dissipating.
Absolutely.
Right? We're moving into the fourth economic evolution of America. And that fourth economic evolution of America is all digital. You know what I mean? So, you know, you heard those rumblings about, you know, Corona was caused by 5G networks being put up here, there, and all the way. And I can't, you know, that might be conspiratorial. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I do know the value of 5G, and it goes way beyond how fast your fucking phone moves.
Sure.
Right? What it does is create a digital network that allows industry to be undergirded by technology in a way that we don't need people anymore. And as we come into a world where we don't need people anymore, how do you effectively make profits when you live in a capitalist system? And when you start to realize that you don't even have an option to make wealth, you don't even have an option to build wealth anymore, you start to realize your real positioning on this planet.
Right.
It ain't a black, white. It's black, white now because that's where we are, right? When in Rome, you got to do it the Romans.
Sure.
Right? So white people see me as a threat to them, I'm going to be a fucking threat to you. Because I'm not going to let you overpower me in any kind of way. It just is what it is. Right? But when that playing field gets understood, right, you're going to realize it's two teams. It's the wealthy and the poor. And the wealthy leverage every option they have to keep themselves wealthy and to keep your ass poor.
Isn't it the same conversation though we have about finding humanity and value in blackness, right? Or the lack thereof, right? There's no value in blackness, but if I'm a black woman, I can find value in womanhood. There's no value in blackness, but if I'm a black child, I can find value in being a child. There's no value in blackness, but if I'm a black homosexual, I can find value in being a homosexual, right? And to the same point, there's no value in being poor, but if I'm a poor white person, I can find value in being white.
So this goes back to the Nitty Fuller quote, though, right? Until you fully understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything you think you understand will only confuse you.
This might be the latest that came up in the show.
There's
90
only
minutes.
no value attached to that shit because we define ourselves by the standards of whiteness. That's it. That's it. Again, which goes back to the shit I said. You either gonna topple this system and
Sure.
take it over,
Sure.
or you got to pull up out of it, right?
Right.
Don't none of that shit define me.
Right.
Don't none of that shit define me.
Right.
I define my value asset to the world.
Right.
Don't nobody else do it. Right? But I know I'm an anomaly in moving like that. I could ride a bike and feel like I'm in the Bentley. Everybody don't have that.
No.
You know what I mean? But that goes back to the spiritual conversation.
Even people who see other value in it, for example, the young lady who pulled up on you,
Yeah.
physically impressed by you, but you're riding a bike, so you must not be shit.
So you must not be shit. Right? But again, that's about self-worth.
Right.
You know what I mean? Think, man, you know, I read somewhere that black suicide rates are alarmingly high in comparison to where they've ever been.
Higher than ever.
Higher than ever, right? And I kind of internalized that conversation like, what the fuck is going on, right? So the further and further we get away from community, right? And we were kind of forced to have community before. We were forced to have community because no other community allowed us to integrate into their communities. And I mean that in much more ways than just sitting in their goddamn restaurants. I mean it in the ways that entertainment is opening up the doors to conversations that we probably never had before. Like Kim Kardashian is a legitimate celebrity in our community, right? My children know the names of white musicians when they turn on the radio. I just can think back to even just when I was a shorty.
Right.
I couldn't name one white artist. I don't know nothing about that fucking world. And
Sure.
I had no interest in it.
Sure.
But the more entertainment becomes hyper, like you got a phone that never cuts the fuck off. You're listening to you got something in your ear selling you some shit all day long. So they're pulling in all these different energies all the time. And it's opening up an idea set to them that probably none of us had before, right? But again, that idea set is the inside of that grocery store. There's no substance there, right? And we're buying into that shit hook, line, and sinker. We're buying into it more and more and more and more.
We are.
Right? So them value sets and them standards that they put on our community becomes more and more real. You're buying more and more in the whiteness where you still haven't corrected the problem with the white community in the first place. You haven't corrected the problem within yourself. Right? Every institution in America is a white supremacist led institution. When you go to school, you're learning how to operate within this white supremacist system. Period.
Fact.
How to function as being a subservient class. Right? And you got to,
Fact.
again, you got to detach from that. And the only way you can detach from that is one, having someone in your corner that really loves you. That has to happen. And you got to have information. Right? But we get away from that. What do we love now? We love things. You're not valuable till you got XYZ house. You're
Right.
not valuable till you have XYZ car. You're not valuable till you have whatever level you own. Is some product there that creates your value set.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But 2-3 generations ago, nobody in our community had shit. So you had to find value in people. And that produces a different kind of person. You know, so until we get to that space, man, we got to get back to that space. We're going to get back to that space. But we're going to get back to that space through the energy that's happening in the streets right now. Recognizing our position. And that's what you're seeing. The shorties is saying, we fucked up.
Period.
And we tired of being fucked up. We ain't going to stand for being fucked up. If it means I got to kick in this window. If it means I got to shoot the police. If it means I got to beat the police ass.
Right.
Like, there's a different energy happening.
That's the first thing that has to happen, right? I have to recognize, one, that I'm fucking starving, right? Number one, if I can recognize that I'm starving, and then two, get to a place where I'm so uncomfortable starving that I am going to do something about it. Now, the first thing I cook, is that shit gonna be good? Probably not. I'm probably finna go in this kitchen and burn some shit up, right? I fuck around and burn this whole kitchen down, right? But what you now understand fully is that motherfucker's not finna starve for much longer. He's not finna sit here and keep not eating, right? And so the first thing I do is come down there and break some shit and tear some shit down, whatever. Okay, you can be pissed about that if you want. I'm offended by the fact that you're more pissed off about broken glass and stolen merchandise than you are about Black Lives, but whatever. You've drawn your line in the sand on that and you're on the other side. Fuck it. But what you are fully aware of is that there is a generation coming that is not going to continue to starve. And that scares the fuck out of you. And because you're so scared, I need to send federal agents to this city and federal agents to that city. And the mayor and the police chief and everybody else needs to do a press conference and say, black people, don't y'all come down here. Man, fuck that, right? All I see when I see that type of stuff is fear. I see recognition of our inability to continue to take this crap laying down. We aren't going to take it that way anymore. And y'all recognize it. We recognize it. And again, is the first response a well-crafted response in all cases? No, right? But it is a response. It is a declaration that we are sick and tired of it and we aren't going to take it anymore. And for me, that's better than continuing to say, I'm just going to deal with it. No, I'm not going to fucking deal with it. Period. And when you talk about, you know, people who would say, oh, I'm more pissed at the broken glass. Think, what are you really saying, right? What are you really saying when you say you're more upset about the broken glass than the actual state of affairs in our communities? Fuck you and that glass.
Well, that's why they send Kamala in. We laughing, but it's all strategy.
I agree with you.
Right? It's all a game. It's always a game. Here's some shit to think about.
Yeah.
Right? Joe Biden nor Kamala never polled number one in no fucking primary.
No.
But they both become the goddamn number one and number two candidates from the DNC party. How does that happen? How does that happen?
I don't know.
Bernie was polling higher than both of them. You know why Bernie was polling higher than both of them? Because Bernie had a socialist kind of agenda that kind of touched on poverty. And everybody here is suffering from poverty. How does Bernie not get the goddamn? The Democratic nominee is not much different than the Republican nominee. There's one fucking party. The party about money. The Capital Party.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
And though none of you people in the Capital Party really want nobody that's not in the Capital Party moving up into the Capital Party.
Right.
We're not really here to help you. We're just leveraging you to keep us in our positioning. Right?
That's it.
So then we start having dumbass arguments about who's the best of the worst.
True.
You understand?
True.
But it's part of the strategy. That's how this goddamn narrative keeps going, and it doesn't just happen at that level. It happens at the lower level. So when you talk about who cares about the broken glass, what you do, you go get the Michigan Avenue. What do they call themselves? The people who created the task force. It was like the Michigan Avenue.
Yeah.
Resource. Whoever the hell they titles was.
The special task force for looting.
Yeah, the special task force. But when Mayor Lori Lightfoot did a press conference, she was something about the.
She referred to it.
No,
as
the
something about
Michigan Avenue Chamber of Commerce.
Mm.
That's who they were. Right?
That's interesting.
And the Michigan Avenue Chamber of Commerce, which was enlightening to me, just so happens to be all black people. How the fuck did that happen?
Even though we have no representation on Michigan Avenue.
Downtown Chicago, Michigan Avenue, leaders of commerce was all black people, right? Mm-hmm. So what do? You get a black mayor. You put the black leaders of commerce out there, and you shun the black community. Mm-hmm. So now, when you only voting on bullshit ass racialized policies because you don't know these fucking people, you don't know their fucking agenda, you think you're gonna get something out of this motherfucker showing up being dark skinned. And you're not. It's a con. It's the long con. It's like motherfucker playing 3-card Molly. The motherfucker that's winning is with him. Mm-hmm. Your dumb ass don't know that motherfucker's with him.
Right.
So as soon as you put your money up, you lose. The only reason the motherfucker that's winning
is because he
with him. Because when you play, the ball ain't on the board no more. God damn it. But that's the part of this shit we can't seem to grasp. We don't never seem to grasp that shit. We keep trusting in more and more bullshit. Because it's gonna take work for you to say, I ain't never seen no get rich quick scheme.
Right.
So I can't get this motherfucker with this piece of paper and these 4 plastic ass cups, $100, and think I'm gonna get some shit out of it.
Well, you shouldn't think that.
You shouldn't.
But there's a large swath of our community right now that thinks that, right? You got these Susu currency things going on right now.
Because the same energy is breeding the motherfucker that played 3-card Molly is the same energy that breeds them. You hopeless. You're hopeless because you don't have access, right? You don't have access because you won't grab yourself by the nuts and create access by any means necessary. Can you whoop my ass though, right?
Real question.
And we've done it. So you can say whatever you want about the gangbangers in the city of Chicago. You can say whatever you want about Jeff Ford. You can say whatever you want about all those industries. I mean, all those people, all those energies. But they had the gumption to go out, and even if it was criminality, they leveraged that criminality to create communities in a lot of ways. And it might be dysfunctional to you, but here's a man who couldn't read that had hundreds of thousands of men following his every step.
Right.
Larry Hoover, hundreds and thousands of men follow his every step.
Right.
That's a skill set.
Right.
And they really only, and it's just again an assumption that Tucson has. They followed it because he really represented the energy of what masculine is supposed to look like. I don't give a fuck. I'll die right here for whatever it is I believe in. Period. Who the fuck gonna stop me? Can you whoop my ass though?
And I think that because most people are unwilling to take that particular step, they find value in it. They respect it, right? And I think that, you know, although most people are probably unwilling to admit it, they respect that kind of gumption. And in fact, they would love to say the same damn thing, right? But because I'm afraid to say the same thing, because I'm afraid to move that way, what's easier and more comfortable for me is to continue to try and assimilate myself into a system, into a culture that has time and time again told me, we do not want you here. Go do something else. But no, master, I want to do what you're doing. Please accept me into what you're doing. No, you're not wanted here. No, we don't fuck with you. No, I don't want you to wear my clothes. I will put monkey lips on a sweater just for your ass. I still need to buy your clothes though. I still need it. It makes me feel whole. It makes me feel valuable. I don't know how to overcome that sickness, bro.
Stand in your popularity.
As a whole.
Stand in your popularity. I mean, don't take no shorts. Let me tell you something. My wife is from Kankakee, Illinois, right? So that creates some challenges in our relationship. It just does.
Okay,
right?
come on.
We're bred different culturally. It just is what it is. Not only is she from Kankakee, Illinois, but I'm not even necessarily the regular resident of no goddamn city, if I'm being honest from a black perspective, right? My father wasn't for the bullshit. So early on, my father used to have a rule in my house. I'm talking about very early, like maybe 7,
Sure.
8, it probably started, right? Every night I had to read for an hour every night. No matter what, I had to read for an hour every night. And I hated that shit at 7 and 8. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
But the only books I had in my house was They Came Before Columbus, Message to the Black Man. You know, there's all this real kind of black-centered, radical philosophy books. You know what I mean? And after a while, because I was forced to do the shit anyway, I began to love it. I began to have a yearning for it. Right? And not only was those the books in my house, what those books really represent is the culture of my goddamn house. Right? He was a race man. It just was what it was. And not only was he a race man, but he was a man that was fully vested in intellect. Right? And he ruled my goddamn house. You know, loved my mom to death, but it was my daddy's law that kind of dominated the house. You know what I mean? So when we had our first child, you know, we was deciding shit like what schools to go to, and what started to rise is the vast differences in our true understanding of who we both were, right? And there was a push to put my son in a Montessori school up north, near North, right? And I was pushing to send him to Betty Shabazz, you know what I mean? And it was interesting because, you know, it's my first time being a parent, and I'm trying to navigate this relationship because this is new to me too, right? And shit was just getting out of hand, you know what I mean? So I at first I folded. I ain't gonna lie, I folded. You know what I mean? And I sent my son to the Near North Montessori School. Right? Now this is pre-kindergarten, pre-first, not, I don't want to say pre-kindergarten, but pre-first grade for sure. Right? So I sent my son to the Montessori School. Now the compromise was I liked the concept of Montessori learning. But what I didn't like was the 100% white demographic of the school. It was legitimately like 3 black children in his class. Right? Now Montessori was new to me. Right. So they called me one day and they asked me to come do to what they call that shit? The overseas class. I forgot what they call it. You know? What's the word? Whatever. Watch my son operate within. Had to come watch my son operate within the class, right? And they was talking about, man, he's not doing well in the school. We think we might need to hold him back. Well, the very concept of Montessori is that they learn at their own place. At their own pace, right? So you talk about you gonna hold them back. This is fucking before kindergarten, man. Eat a dick. You ain't holding my son nothing. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm also having conversations with my son. You understand what I'm saying? So I know he ain't no dummy because we having conversations, and I know I'm thinking. I know what's happening in my house, and we having these conversations. So I go observe. I went to observe my kid in school.
Is that the word you're trying to think of?
Observe, yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know,
Brilliant.
Right.
I'm with you.
But
I'm just fucking
they
around.
doing their project, and my son is doing his project. Now my son looks completely different than every kid in his class.
Yeah.
He got the mohawk on. He looked like he fresh out of rap video.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm sure he was bigger than most.
Yeah. So this is what my son does. He does his math problems, and he does it. He gets all the right answers, but he's sloppy. He loud. He don't give a shit about the rules of the classroom. Right? And once he finishes his project, he gets his little ass up and goes plays basketball in the gym. Because what he's figured out about the Montessori system is, if I do it the shit they ask me to do, I can spend the rest of my time doing what the fuck I want to do.
Right.
So in reality, he's smarter than everybody else in the goddamn class. He done already mastered the goddamn system.
I learned how to play the game
I
early.
learned how to get what I want out of the system,
Right.
right? So we end up having a conversation with the dean of the school, and he was like, "Well, he's not really catching on. He's loud. He's not very neat. Like these were sort of part of the
Sure.
processes they was trying to get them to learn."
Sure.
And I realized like the cultural divide, right? Everybody in my goddamn house loud. How you expect him to come here and be quiet? You understand what I'm saying?
Right. We loud on
and,
here.
And the only reason he's working sloppy is because he figured this shit out. All I gotta do is be fast. That's all I gotta do. And once I'm fast and I finish, I
done.
can go do what the fuck I want to do.
Right.
I'm not under your control anymore.
Right.
Right.
I'm done.
But this is a conflict that arose between me and my wife. I caved because it was my wife, and I'm trying to navigate how to deal with having a wife, one.
Happy-
and I'm trying to deal with
Happy wife, happy life.
I'm also navigating how to deal with having a new family.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But in that navigation, I sold my son short because I knew better from the jump. Right? And in that navigation, I put him in a situation where at 6 years old, 5 years old, they're already saying he's crippled and not capable.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
And the real value of any education is not what the fuck you learning. It's not really that. I'm not saying any education, but any educator.
Right.
Right? Is your commitment to the child or the commitment to the relationship. You learn through love, family, not through information.
Right.
It ain't just raw information don't mean shit.
Right.
I got to value the person that's saying the shit for me to value what the fuck they saying.
Right.
Right? What's the quote? Rules without relationships build rebellion.
Right. Mhm.
It is what it is.
Facts.
But we don't. Something as simple as that whole little analogy that I gave you could have shaped the rest of that boy's life.
Easily.
I'm always gonna be less than, no matter what. But in reality, you're greater than. You had figured this shit out way before any other child in this goddamn class. I'm gonna get my fucking. But you was thinking outside of the framework of doing what they told you to do, and you did what was natural to you.
Right.
This shit ain't rocket science, man.
No.
Universal law, man law. Universal law is always going to supersede man law. But we don't listen to universal law.
As well it should, in my opinion. I think it should always supersede man law, right? Because universal law came first. It's what's natural to us. It's what's going to feel most natural to you when you talk about thinking and making decisions, right? That is what comes first. Now, what happens is what we've been conditioned to believe, what we've been taught to understand, supersedes our natural instincts more often than not. And so, although our natural instincts may say, I'm going to do this shit for myself. I'm going to figure this thing out on my own. You give a small child, a toddler, right, a choice about what it is they want to do. They're going to do whatever the hell that they want to do. They aren't going to factor in whatever type of shit you're going to teach them over the years. They're going to do their own types of things. Now, as we grow older, that starts to look like the same thing as an adult. I'm going to let go of what my natural instincts tell me I should be doing, and I'm going to do what I've been taught to do. I'm going to do what I've been conditioned to do. And in this country, what you're conditioned to do is be a peg on the wheel of white supremacy and capitalism. That's just the fact of the matter if you live in the United States of America. Unless you actively work to unlearn that bullshit and do something else. And so all we're trying to figure out is, okay, for all of us who have chosen to unlearn that and do something else, how do we unify that thought? How do we make that plan a collective plan? How do we put that agenda on paper and then put it into action in a way that will yield tangible results? That's the purpose of I Said What I Said. And if you're just tuning in, that is what we're trying to do here. Again, this is I Said What I Said. My name is Herb Howard. His name is Toussaint Werner. Each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Central Time, we're going to be live on the Maze Jackson page having this conversation with you. Your input will always be valued. It will always be appreciated. We do not have to agree. It's not about that. We do not have to fucking agree. If we do, cool. But we don't have to, right? But what we do have to be...
We might not have to agree, but we do got to find alignment.
Right.
We got to find alignment.
Right.
And then I think we struggle in finding alignment as a community, right? I think the white community aligns around the fact that they don't want to lose no fucking power.
And why would they? That makes perfect sense.
It does make perfect sense. I think the Hispanic community aligns around, we don't want to lose a little bit of power we got, and we want to gain more. I think the Chinese community aligns around the same thought. But like I said earlier, we are the most American of all Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't even decided or defined a community because we don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a culture. We don't. But that's see. This is what I struggle with when I say we don't have no culture, because we're always looking to attach ourselves to something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in order for us to really find our wholeness is that we're gonna have to create something.
Mm.
You ain't gonna never find no wholeness when you associate yourself to a whole goddamn continent. A continent that just doesn't relate or define their cultures by the standards of the continent, right? What the fuck is an African American? Because the cultures of Africa are not all the same.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So as an African on the continent, you don't
use that
yourself
kind of
an
language.
African.
I'm a Kenyan.
I'm a Kenyan.
I'm Ghanaian.
I'm a Nigerian. I'm
Right.
a Ghanaian.
Right.
And then you get further into the tribes that they represent.
Right.
You understand? That is representative of the culture, because Africa's bigger. You can put 6 Americas inside of Africa.
Right.
It's cultures all through that motherfucker.
Right. You've never seen Africa in the Olympics.
Cultures all through that motherfucker. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So, what I think as Americans, we just have to decide who it is we're going to be, and stop trying to attach ourselves to something and begin to build something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, that's why I said, like, until you have the information, you can't build.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can't fix a problem until you understand the problem. And I think we're moving into a space and place where we're beginning to question enough, or at least new thoughts and new processes. Right? That we think about this, man. Jesse Jackson legitimately created the term African American.
Hmm.
Jesse Jackson is alive.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So what the fuck is that rooted in? That's not a knock to Jesse.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we've been through all these phases: colored, black,
Right.
African, Negroes.
Right.
We obviously are on a trajectory of learning something new at every one of those phases.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Because you don't control the game. And when you don't control the game, the rules can change at any fucking moment. So you can go from slave, nigger, colored, Negro, 3/5 of a person. All like it don't fucking matter. Say whatever you want, you don't control the fucking game. And we are going to continue to control the game and play it for ourselves to our own benefit. What you laughing at? I bet you it's Patah.
Hey, no, shout out to my man Sean Desmond. He went to college with me. Said CMB, we all we got.
We all we got.
You know what I'm saying? That's real shit.
That's
CMB,
real. Let me say huge thanks to Sean Dennis. We appreciate the star, Sean. Greatly appreciate that from you. Adam Shorter, thank you so much for contributing to the show. We greatly appreciate your contribution. Esco send stars. Esco, we appreciate you, love. Talk about supporting yourself. Sirajuddin Fifth, we appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much for supporting the show as well. Ellsworth Johnson, thank you so very much for supporting the show that way. We greatly appreciate it. Listen, let me be very clear. We appreciate all of you all for supporting the show and just by listening, right? Just by tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Some of you all have shared the page, and again, if you haven't done so, please share the conversation, right? We want as many people as possible to be a part of this conversation so that we can get as many people in so the conversation can grow and actually yield some tangible results in our community. So sharing the conversation is a phenomenal way to support the conversation. We greatly appreciate you all supporting in that way as well. Also, Hassan, thank you so much for supporting the show. Hassan Alamin, we appreciate you supporting the show that way. Mama Howard, thank you so much for the stars. We greatly appreciate that as well. Oh, supported it twice. I'm just rolling through
Shout out
checking
to
out the
Mama
stars.
Howard.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate that. Sarah Mickens, thank you so much for the 1,000 stars. We truly appreciate that as well, ma'am. You are absolutely phenomenal, and we appreciate the support all of the time. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody who's been rocking with I Said What I Said since the inception of the show too. I will start naming y'all, but I'm gonna forget some people. You know, I'm gonna start naming them anyway, and we'll just continue to name them as we go. But people like Adrian and Patah and Nicole Rogers and just so many people who have just been rocking with it from the beginning. We truly appreciate it. And special thanks to everybody else who's just coming over now that we've been here. Catrice as well, been here from the beginning. Catrice, thank you for the stars. We greatly appreciate that. I just want us to make sure that we are acknowledging you all and make sure that you all understand your value to this particular conversation, right? So this is not a show where Tu and I sit here and talk at you all for 2 hours, right? That's not what we're trying to do here. We're literally trying to have a conversation that is going to yield some tangible results in our communities. We're trying to get people to understand what their particular lane is in this fight for our liberation. So if that's, again, whatever it may be, education, economics, food, and community gardens or self-sustain business, whatever it may be, right? Find your lane, get to work, and then make sure that it's unified in that way. You all play a pivotal role in that. So please continue to share this conversation. Please continue to support the show by clicking on the gold stars. We truly appreciate you all choosing to be here. Again, we're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday live on the Maze Jackson page. We are live from What's In It for the Black People Media in the Maze Said Studios. Herb Howard, Tucson 1 and 2. Got about 4 minutes left in the show, brother. Any closing remarks from you?
You just said find your way, right? And everything you said, find your way, was kind of attached to like some external stuff. And I'm not devaluing that external stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the building the garden,
Mm-hmm.
all that. But I think the real roadmap to mastering yourself is inside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I mean when I say the real investment is in love, right? Because when you fully operate from that standpoint, that space and place of love, then all that other shit is like secondary.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because
Sure.
you're operating within the natural. I'm not even no religious dude. I don't get into that at all,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there are passages from the Bible that are very telling. When you start, me and you have had this conversation before, but every deity that is the top of every religion, right, essentially was a selfless person,
Yeah.
right, who gave away all of his worldly possessions to be with the people. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's all these deities that we seem to adore and follow, but we do the exact opposite in regards to how we live.
Sure.
Right? We value things rather than people.
Mm-hmm.
But every deity that you put at the top of these religious ideologies
Right.
did the exact opposite.
Right.
Right? So
You're trying to be more like them, but you ain't doing shit like
doing
that.
nothing like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So love is a personal conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And once you master that, you're going to master the game because it gets very clear from there. It just
Mhm.
cleans the
Mhm.
fog off Eddie Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the struggle, right? America kind of gets you away from a place of loving yourself because it creates new value sets because they sell you when you valueless. It's easy to sell you on anything.
Mhm.
You buy into anything that makes you feel better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you don't feel better because they want to keep you in a state of perpetual not feeling good. Perpetually not feeling good.
Yeah.
So, we're looking for answers for internal problems with external solutions, and that just don't happen.
No, it never really does, right? It's impossible, right? You aren't going to solve an internal problem with external solutions. That's not real. You got to fix that thing inside yourself first, and then everything else will then fall in place. We are just about out of time. I want to say thank you, Zaviola Coleman. Thanks for the stars. We greatly appreciate that. I want to point out a comment that came in from Intwa Dumela. She says, "You guys stop me from working." She said, "It's a good thing though. I'm a boss of me, right?" And that's really what it's about, right? Be in control of what's happening in your own life, right? And then make it a part of the greater good for the collective. So we greatly appreciate you tuning in into the mailer. We greatly appreciate you pausing what's going on at work. And we salute the fact that you have the freedom and the wherewithal to be able to do so. I want to say thank you so very much for each and every one of you all that have tuned in this afternoon. We will be back Friday at 1 p.m. Somebody said, Phil, I think it was Fifth, said, shout out to Maze Jackson. Big ups to Maze Jackson, man. Listen, y'all. There are some things going on over here at What's In It for the Black People Media. I know. It's I know. So Sonya back there in the producer studio, like shh. Can't let it out the bag yet, but there are some things. There are some things going on over here. You guys stay tuned. You're going to love all the things that are coming your way. We greatly appreciate you all supporting with us and rocking with us from the ground floor. Some great things are in the works for Tucson Warner and for super producer Sonya Escobar. My name is Herb Howard. I said what I said. We'll be back Friday at 1 p.m. Peace.
Salam alaikum.
Boom, boom.